right, just a reminder, here's what Zeke had to say to Maxim magazine this summer about the running back position. Until the very recent deal with Todd Gurley, I think there was an undervalue of the running back position, Elliott told Maxim. But with guys like Gurley getting drafted so high, then me, and now guys like Saquon Barkley getting drafted in the first round, I think we've done a great job of bringing back the value of the position, showing the importance of the running back. All right, let's welcome back former NFL player and current analyst Dominique Foxworth. What's up?
Hey.
All right, Max, we'll start with you.
Yeah.
Is the running back position back?
Yeah, it's back. I mean, like, look, it's not what it once was because the position had to evolve. Because they kept the returns on the forward lateral have kept going up to the point where you can't, if you look at the quarterback sideways, it's a roughing the passer penalty. You can't even breathe or look at the quarterback anymore. So, of course, the passing game goes up. So what happened? Great running backs learn how to catch the ball. And they could be, some of them could be split out wide. Now, the issue with the running back position, the reason they started not paying them, it's a scarcity issue, really. They're not so rare. So, for example, you don't have to spend a top 5 or 10 pick on a running back because a guy like Kamara or McCaffrey or a guy like Le'Veon Bell in the second round, you can get them. By the way, you can also get quarterbacks later in the draft, but with running backs, there seems to be more of them who can be really good farther down. However, Todd Gurley, only because of his injury, went 9th. He'd have gone higher, 9th or 10th. I forget. Flowers got taken right before him, I want to say. Anyway, Zeke went 4th. Saquon went 2nd. All those teams are happy with their picks. 2 of them have been paid. Saquon's going to get paid. You can't say the position's not making the comeback.
Well, you argue for it and then you argued against it. Like, value is based on scarcity. Like, supply and demand is the crux of value. If there is a whole bunch of supply of running backs, which you're saying that there are, then the demand is lower, so the value is lower. I think we're talking about a few guys who are special. And that doesn't change the way that the position is viewed. It changes the way that those guys are viewed, but it doesn't change the position. Football is not going to go backwards. We understand that it's safer with the ball in the air a little bit more. They're trying to make it safer. They're moving away from running the ball. The league has matured and developed. We understand that it's more efficient to throw the ball. Even short passes, it's almost always more efficient to throw the ball, and more coaches who think that way are getting in the league. I don't think we're going to go back in a way that the running backs are as important as they were. And I agree that running backs that have the ability to catch the ball are going to become more and more important, but that's still not as valuable as having a receiver who can go down the field and a quarterback who can connect down there. That's where the value is on the offensive side of the ball.
You know, when I look at the game, you tend to look at at the lower levels. What's going on at the lower levels? It used to be a time when the running backs were the best athletes on the team, right? They were, the running back was the absolute best. But then you start trending towards that. The best athletes start playing wide receiver, quarterback, cornerback. Why? Because people start understanding that, you know what? Playing running back, that's not where things are happening right now. Okay, that's where you see where the league is right now. It's a passing league. You're not seeing the best athletes at the running back position like you used to see. And on top of that, you can't have this conversation without talking about compensation. Okay, we had the conversation earlier. Okay, everyone talks about Zeke. Oh, Zeke got $50 million. But I pointed out that Adrian Peterson got 40 in 2011. That's 8 years ago. Think about that. As much as the salary cap has grown over that period of time, you mean to tell me that there's only been a $10 million increase at the running back position?
Saquon's going to get.
I don't know if it's going to be this astronomical number.
I bet you it'll reset the market by quite a bit. Here's the thing about the argument that these are special guys, but the position's not coming back. If you plot any population on a bell curve, some of them are going to be on the far side of the curve. Those running backs on the far side of that curve in recent years, until this happened, weren't getting drafted in the top 10. Suddenly, these guys are getting drafted 2nd overall, 4th overall. That means there's a different value placed on the position, on guys who can do things at that position.
We can do statistics if you want to. They may be on the far right of that curve, but the standard deviation is quite small. The group is small. The standard deviation for quarterbacks is much bigger. So that's why, and the same thing is true for wide receivers. That's why you go through the history of the draft and you go through free agency. Those are the guys who are getting paid. Those big guys are the guys who are getting paid. The numbers that you brought up are important. And you go back to even the average salary for running backs hasn't gone up in 10 years.
But that's
so you're talking about guys buying,
that's misleading,
guys drafting early.
That's misleading, though. I haven't noticed receivers going earlier than the top running backs recently.
More receivers are going in the first round.
But when you look at the high first round, tell me a receiver that went 4th or 2nd in recent years. Because Ezekiel Elliott and Saquon Barkley and Gurley would have gone higher had it not been for the injury. That's 1. 2, the money is a little bit deceiving, like when we use that as a standard, because the NFL, when Jerry Jones ushered in the salary cap era, he immediately got around it by signing Deion Sanders, and everyone said, you can't do that, you broke the salary cap. He said, no. This guaranteed money is prorated over the life of the contract, so we gave him a 10-year deal or whatever, so it's really only X guaranteed per year. Because running backs have a shorter shelf life, because they're done as elite backs 28, 30, that's the reason their money's kept down. But if you actually look at what they're getting paid, it's not far off from the other elite positions anymore.
It absolutely is far off from the.
Take quarterback out of it.
Oh my God! Like you like wide receivers, like they're not even close to like the wide receivers, cornerbacks. You know those type of
running backs. The only position that the average salary has not gone up in 10 years. Like that is far off. If you want to blame that on
the length of their careers,
the length of their career, that's fine. But we can also talk about the draft. A lot more receivers are going in the first round than running backs. That speaks to their value, because finding a great game-breaking receiver has a tremendous impact on the offense, more so than having a guy who can run the ball, with the exception of those 3 guys. Three guys that
maybe, but you have hybrids now, like you brought them up, like all the guys that we're talking about, McCaffrey and Kamara and everybody, who are also Le'Veon Bell gets split out wide, he gets put in the slot, he could take out of the backfield. Yeah. So these guys can do a lot of things, and the average annual value is also really, when it comes down to it, affected by the length of the deal.
Okay.
And by the way, that's also working for running backs, because teams are realizing we get value from year 1 out of this guy, and we never really have to pay him long term.
But you know what? You talk about all the elite guys. Where was Kamara drafted? What, like 3rd, 4th round? Le'Veon, 3rd, 4th round. Like you're able to find these guys in those latter rounds. Why? Because the running back position is the easiest to assimilate into the National Football League. They can literally hit the ground running. You don't need to draft a running back in the top 3 or 4.
Then why do they keep doing it? Why did Los Angeles, which is a forward-thinking, offensive kind of minded franchise?
Well, you know what I'm saying why?
Anyway.
You can tell me why.
They weren't when they drafted Gurley.
I realize that.
Let's get to one more topic, all right? Zeke got paid. Another guy did too, Jared Goff, okay? It's been a big 24 hours in the NFC, with the Rams and Jared Goff agreeing on a 4-year extension worth $134 million. And that includes an NFL record $110 million guaranteed. And the Cowboys still have to pay their Dak Prescott. It makes you think, what's going on, Dominique? Does this put pressure on the Cowboys? What does this mean for Dak and perhaps his payday?
I think it does, and I think it impacts it immediately. We had Mike Tannenbaum on Get Up this morning. He was talking about being a GM. When a deal like that comes across and you're in the middle of negotiations, they hate it as GM. So it changes the market, and I think it was big because we all, a few weeks ago, we were talking about Dak and saying that maybe they can get him for around 20-something million, like they could get him to go under. When a guy like Jared Goff, who Dak and many other people believe is not as good as Dak Prescott, gets this type of market resetting money, I think Dak Prescott starts to expect that and has reason to point to, has a guy to point to and say, I'm at least as good as this guy, so they should pay him. And I think he deserves it.
You know what? He's not. Goff is clearly better than Dak. But I'll say this. I'd rather have Dak long term. I think Dak has more room for growth. And I think he's like a pressure player.
I wouldn't say. I don't know if I would say
clearly, but
I don't know if it clearly.
Goff,
I don't know about clear. I don't know about clear.
Goff just led the best offensive football to the Super Bowl.
But you also made the point about Sean McVay.
No doubt.
You were like pounding the pavement about Sean McVay.
No doubt.
All right. Okay. Look at the.
But that redounds to the reputation of the player.
Earlier in the show, we did point out how important the coaching was there in that situation.
Right.
Hold on. That helps the player.
Does anybody think that the coaching in Dallas is outstanding or was outstanding?
That's my point. My point is, long term, I agree with Dak. I'd rather have him than Goff. But if we're talking about, that's the thing with Dak and my whole issue with him and the Cowboys now. If I'm the Cowboys, I'm telling Dak, we think you're going to be as great as you think you're going to be, and we're going to win Super Bowls together. He has not shown it yet.
But hold on,
he's not achieved on the level that Goff and Wentz and those guys have yet.
So if you're Dak's agent, you can sit back and say, look at here, look at my numbers. Okay, I've put up numbers just as good or better than Carson Wentz. I've done some things just as good as that guy. I don't even have the coaching that a Jared Goff had, and look what I have done. I wasn't the number 1 pick. I was a 4th round pick.
Yeah.
So wouldn't that argument be in favor? Would be in favor of a Dak Prescott?
It's messed up for Dak in a way, but I'll tell you why the answer is no. I believe it, and maybe everyone here believes that would be the case if he had a better coach. But since he hasn't, we haven't seen him do it yet. Wentz was an MVP of the league level player when he got hurt.
And I think
Goff just led his team to the Super Bowl. Dak hasn't done either one of those.
I think it's fair, and it's hard to argue against those numbers because I think that the raw passing numbers, Wentz has definitely been better. But I think that Dak has been pretty impressive in the playoffs in particular, and big important moments. And even when they lose, he has a 78 winner or quarterback rating in losses, which is better than Tom Brady's QBR in losses. So it's hard to put any of the blame on Dak Prescott for what they've done so far.
I compare Dak to Russell Wilson and Tom Brady a lot. Game manager, big on third down, big under pressure. Those guys didn't get paid until they, not just on potential, maybe they could do it until they showed they could do it. Then they got paid.
But you know what? But you know what?
Goff, though? I mean,
he just took his team
he took his team
Super Bowl.
To the Super Bowl. But at any point, was anybody thinking that Jared Goff is the reason why? Like,
halfway through last season, the MVP candidates were Aaron Donald, Todd Gurley, and Jared Goff.
More people are talking about Sean McVay. Let's just be honest. You even said that Jared Goff is a system guy.
Halfway through last season, Goff to me looked like the real deal.
So you need half a season nowadays. Got it. All right. So
then he took the team to the Super Bowl.
I thought you needed a full season.
I want to take
but now I know you need half a season.
Super Bowl a full season?
Speaking of the Super Bowl.